Somebody folded my tarp. Might have been me. Well, good morning, everyone. Today's subject is going to be, we're going to work on is shelter, right? So I think that's primarily the most important out of the fire, water, shelter triad, right? Triad. Shelter, without shelter, your core body temperature will drop, and it doesn't matter how much water you have or how much food you have or anything else, you die. With shelter, we're always trying to better how we do it. Even if we set it up in haste, we try to improve it as time goes, if we're there for a survival situation where you're more than like a day or two. A ridge line, which is basically going to hang the tarp, okay? So three thoughts actually, but two are the really most important ones. So depending on the shelter that you're putting up, you're going to want your ridge line either at waist height or shoulder height. They're always coiled this way, ready to deploy, right? So this is the end that I attach first always. So on the end there, I have a bowline knot with a loop, right? Very, very simple setup. These are called prussiks. It grabs on the line. So it gives me a place to pull tension on the line. So we're dropping it, and then we are going to go once, twice, 3 times. And then we're going to do is we're just going to roll this so it's nice and neat. And that's a prussik. So now this gives you the ability to be able to pull in either direction and it'll lock, but then you can also very slightly just move it by moving the actual prussik knot itself. So we're going to take our prussik, right? We'll do one at a time, and you're going to thread your prussik through your loop. And we're going to take our trusty tent stake and drop it through it. Okay? That is going to hold this tarp up. You could use a stick for this. If you have extra tent stakes, use a tent stake, because they have these cool little catches that stop the stick, if you use the stick, from dropping to the ground. Way you're going to pull it your way, I'm going to pull it my way until it's really tight. You got plenty of room underneath this thing for yourself, your gear. You could have a little fire right here, and the radiant heat will warm you. So there's a couple little cool little tricks that we can do to this to make it better. Right? So one of them is, Chris, we're going to take those tent stakes out.
Okay.
And we're going to go to the second one. Tuck this underneath. And now we have something to sleep on. That's a waterproof barrier. Now we're going to improve on this. So let's take this out, Chris. Okay, just leave those stakes on the ground. And we're going to take these out. We're going to go over it, and we're going to connect it to this one. So it's nice and tight. Now we're going to go back here again and put in our rear stake. I'm going to put one back here just because we have one. So now you got a rain lip. We can turn the lean-to into an A-frame, right? So now you have more coverage. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop these out. Now, the only issue that we're gonna have is our ridge line needs to be changed, right? So for lean-tos, shoulder height, A-frame, waist height. Okay. 2 frames of thought on this. So you've got, this particular one has a ridge line with loops on top. So we could go underneath this, right? Which helps with wear and tear on the tarp. The more the wind's blowing on this, the more this happens. But you don't get a like banjo string hard ridge line. So half a dozen, one or the other. For when I do my hammock tarps that go above my hammock, I will do it in this configuration because it's now going to give me, like, you're going to have this much height above you have to have your ridge line up that much higher, which is hard to do when you're trying to get it up as high as you possibly can. So half a dozen, one or the other on these. So we're going to tighten this guy up on the ridge line. And when we tighten our tarp stakes, is we do it like we do when we're changing our tires and lug nuts, right? So we always go to the opposites, right? Opposite sides. And that it helps the tarp stretch better. So that is an A-frame, right? To get a little more height, we could raise the ridge line a little, but then you're losing footprint on the inside of the tent. What we're gonna do, we're gonna leave this up because I wanna talk about the plow point. It's a plow point shelter. It's set up in a diamond configuration. As long as you have the wind direction correctly, you have a huge area to sleep underneath. And we use the toggle. Screw it. Just use the toggle.
Yeah, I got it.
It's there.
Okay.
We'll use it. Okay. We're going to go leave one here. Take the rest with us. This is a little trick that I figured out. So this is just temporary. We're going to go over the top of this, Chris. All right. This does not necessarily have to be there, but you're going to see why I kind of add this into how I do my, at this point I would take this line and I would tie it off here, right? And slip it over the top of the stake before I set it, okay? But you're going to see what the advantage of this is in a second. So we're going to stake out the wings. Basic plow point as it sits, right? I could now take this line and tie it off here. Just like so. Normally you don't see anybody tighten this first. I like it because it gives me something for the tarp to sit on and center and tighten up, and I know exactly where it's going to sit. It also helps when I stretch the wings out on each side so it'll actually become taut in its like proper shape. Now, to gain some footage here, here's the cool little trick. Line to hold it up, and it gives you like an extra foot, whatever, maybe up to, yeah, exactly underneath it. But you can see inside there's a lot of room. There's a lot of room to work in there. What we have here though is something for the rain to run down and hit, and it'll start to drip. A lot of people will tie right here or just before the tarp, just a simple prusik or just a piece of rope that just hangs, so that allows the water to channel in a direction. So this is going to be the back of the tent. Okay, so Chris and I are going to put these guys in here. We're going to go spread it tight between me and you. Yep. And then down and in.
Oh, I have root. Hold on.
Of course.
Of course I did.
Okay. Now, we're going to come forward. And we're going to pull the tarp tight, but we're not going to put it in there. What we're going to do is going to mark where this mark is here, where this tie out is, right? And now we're going to take the far one and we're going to put that there. All right, now we are going to take our pole. Come on in. So, even though this has rubber ends on it, right, I like to even go further with this and put something over it, like a sock or a hat, a hood, or something, just to give it a little more. All right. Now, we're going to figure out where like about 1/3 of this tarp is. So if this was the center, that's the end. I would say 1/3 of this thing is right about here, right? So we're going to go in about 1/3, right about there.